Our old friend Rosie Perez is going to join us here in a little while. I erred in not asking Samson. I did want to talk to him about everybody who is alleging that the Jake Paul-Tyson fight was fixed enough that Jake Paul now has to come out and make public commentary about it, because people who are watching, some of the fighting experts who are watching, are noticing that Mike Tyson is there are easy opportunities for Mike Tyson that would have been taken even 4 years ago against Roy Jones Jr. He looked like a different human being in the legs, but I don't know how sick he was recently either, because Mike Tyson clearly had some openings, on some amateur openings, on things that the novice fight expert, if such a thing can exist, right? Because people examining this on the internet are saying there were some right hands, and the fact that there were no uppercuts from Mike, that Jake Paul left the openings, and some people are alleging fixing there.
I mean, fixing is a bridge too far, to be honest, Dan. But it is weird to see a killer like Mike Tyson and have him not do the things that he's built to do, scientifically, humanly built to do. No, but you can be old. He's had those same shots on a punching bag and takes them.
And like 1 minute bursts. We see those videos in 1 minute bursts.
Okay, but they were open, right? It's not like he's too old to throw a punch. Then what are we doing?
There was one moment that I noticed when it was happening, and it was pretty early in the fight. I would put it in the group chat. Why didn't Mike take that shot? And since then, the internet's isolated that clip and been like, whoa, what is this? Because you could see the opening, Mike Tyson kind of cock back and then just pull it back. And Jake Paul wasn't moving very fast at this moment. It was a clean shot, but Mike Tyson went through a lot, and I guess the explanation is you don't have to allege rigging. It could just be like, man, Mike Tyson was clearly not right. He was biting his glove the entire time. He announced that he lost like a lot of blood. We still don't really know exactly how that came about, and that's what initially postponed the fight. So, look, it was what it was.
Oh, it is what it is becomes it was what it was.
I mean, it went pretty much exactly how we thought.
Right.
And like Dan would come onto the show and entertain like, well, you know, one punch from that guy. Ultimately, it's a 60-year-old man against a dude that is in the prime of his life, that is in really good shape, and it's a combat sport.
Yeah, but when Jake leaves an opening, you are left to wonder why Mike wouldn't take that.
I mean, a lot about it was odd with Mike, and then you find out he was really sick before the fight, and Roy Jones is saying the entire fight I don't like his legs here.
Said it from the very beginning. Don't like his legs at all. Roy, who fought him 4 years ago, and that's not how Mike was moving. We don't need to spend any more time here. Rosie Perez will join us in a bit.
That was that.
There's been a lot of, yes, that was that. There's been a lot of internet sleuthing on this subject, and when 100 million people watch something and feel ripped off, there are going to be a lot of theories afterward.
I mean, they didn't pay a pay-per-view price for it. You paid $15.99 or whatever for your Netflix
Oh,
account.
but no, but that night, I think when Mike says it was what it was and it met what the expectations were, which were low, no, it did not. 100 million people tuned in hoping to see something better than that. Like, they left disappointed. Boxing does that a lot.
Serrano-Taylor was incredible. One of the fights of the year just before that fight.
No one cares, Tony.
They got
What
an
do you mean nobody
incredible
cares?
fight.
No one
true.
tuned in to see that fight.
Stugotz, that's not true.
Dan, I'm sorry. Okay, a
Serrano-Taylor
handful
was
of boxing
incredible.
fans care, but people tuned in to see Mike Tyson. That's what they wanted to see.
Sure,
You
they
saw
got a
him.
fight of the year right before that fight.
You saw him. You saw what it would look like if a 60-year-old Mike Tyson got in the ring against Jake Paul. We all knew that was a possibility. Even the people that were most bullish on Mike's chances knew that there is a real possibility
If
that
it
this
gets
could
past round 1 or round 2, you're going to deal with 60-year-old. Even with 2-minute rounds, I don't think people understand what it takes out of the human body just to get in the ring and where your legs are when you're that afraid of, I've got to fight this other person for money and they can concuss me. Like, it's a weird way to make a living. It's scary, and there's some drainage involved before you ever, to your legs, before you ever get in the ring. By round 3, man, I've told one of my favorite stories in sports, history of sports, is George Foreman in Africa, in Zaire, where they're chanting for the Ali the underdog. And for 7 rounds, Foreman is just giving him everything, all the Tyson stuff, everything. And Ali just keeps whispering it to him. Is that all you got, George? Is that all you got? It's all rope-a-dope. Is that all you got? And in the 8th round, when Foreman got knocked out in one of the best fights ever, he's like, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's all I got.
That's
I
when
got-
boxing was boxing,
I got
Dan.
7 rounds of it.
I
So
got-
That's when we
that's
were
all I got.
kings, Stu. That's when we were kings.
Yep.
It's one of my favorites. It is. I know it's a dorky story, but I love it so much. You're the heavy. George Foreman was Tyson. He had a pet tiger. He was walking around in the street with a pet tiger.
Dan, that's on your YouTube algorithm, just like the Norm Macdonald
Yeah,
thing.
I can't
60-year-old
I can't
fights.
help it. I
That's
can't help
also
it.
part of it.
Well, but that Tyson tapped into that for me and a lot of people my age. Like there was a whole lot of hope trafficking we were doing with the convicted rapist there. Just be good one last time, old man.
30 years removed from your prime.
Knock out the kid and show him show the whippersnappers on behalf of us old guys.
What boxing used to be.
That's right. I have this new thing that was supposed to be weekly that hasn't been weekly. Is it still undefeated, Billy? It is an agent of chaos. Is it bet the House or bet the Senate?
It's called Bet the House. Everybody knows it's called Bet
I
the
don't
House
know
of
what it
Representatives.
is.
Yeah,
Is it still unbeaten? It was 3-0 for a while there.
I believe we're 4-1 now because we had one last week that didn't air, but we had the right pick, so we're crediting that one. That one hit. So that one was a win. Now we did have a loss. What's that, Thomas?
Why didn't it air?
Hold on, Thomas.
We're
is
undefeated in
talking.
the FBS. I don't know why he walked in the middle of me talking, but yeah.
Well,
Thomas has
Undefeated
been
in the
working very hard on this.
Yeah,
Like,
but he
he's
got
been
a
working-
little comfortable because you brought him on the microphone before, and now he's just interrupting segments. Kind of rude. It's odd, really. But anywho, so we lost. It's emotional. We lost a couple weeks back. No, hold on a second.
I'm not there yet.
Lost a couple weeks
Scared
ago. Last week was a big W. Didn't air, but we still won that one. It still
Why didn't it
happened.
air?
I don't know. I wasn't here. So, anyways,
That's why.
We'll take your word on
Needed
it.
to set up. And
well, Thomas was primed to set it up. I don't know what happened. We don't need to point fingers here. It's Thanksgiving week. Tony's got to get out of here. So the point is this. This week we got a big guest. Very big guest this week. Not a House of Representatives. This is a senator. We have a senator for over 30 years
Not yet.
who for the 30 years of his service as a senator has been putting smiles on people's faces the entire time.
Huh.
He has?
Really?
It's time to bet. The Senator of Representatives. Bet the Senator. Bet. The Senator of Representatives. It's time to bet the Senator of Senator! The Senator of Representatives. Senator. Senators. This week's guest comes to us courtesy of our neighbors to the north. It's Ottawa Senators team dentist, Dr. William Wild Bill Henry. We got a matchup that seemed like it was going to be a big one, but now most people don't really care about it and probably won't really impact the standings whatsoever because everybody knows Notre Dame's getting in anyways. It's the Notre Dame Fighting Irish versus the USC Trojans. Dr. Henry, who you got?
Yeah, I'd be Notre Dame.
Wow.
So good.
I don't think they're in if they lose that one.
Nah, they're still going to get in.
Yeah,
Don't fool yourself.
It was built for them to get in.
They don't have a conference championship game. That
They're in.
Doesn't matter.
They're in.
Northern
Don't
Illinois
worry.
is a 6-win team.
No.
Big brand.
Not even a
Senators
good MAC team.
team dentist.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, also breaking news on the latest episode of Ice Ice Baby coming out soon. We're gonna have the full interview with Dr. Bill Henry. So we went about 40 minutes or so with Dr. Bill Henry before we got that pick, and we figured, you know what, we're not gonna not use the 40 minutes where we talked to Ottawa Senators team dentist Dr. Bill Henry. So that's gonna be on the latest episode of Ice Ice Baby.
The hockey show doesn't want that?
You can I get O Canada for that bed there?
What?
No,
No, it's bedtime.
no, the bed is
Come on.
the thing.
Bet the House of Representatives,
Yeah,
sometimes
which
senators.
is very clearly the name.
Yeah.
What is Ice Ice Baby?
Yeah,
what
you
is
have,
Ice Ice
you have
Baby?
Ice Ice Baby?
Ice
What is
Ice
it?
Baby's the hockey show that we've been doing for a while now, off the record. It's the Iceman, Mr. Hockey, Matty Ice, and Baby Billy.
What are you
Ice Ice Baby.
doing, man?
Yeah. It's a hockey show. Everybody knows. We offered Roy to be a guest multiple times. Roy has refused the guest.
So, but this
Mr. Hockey's personal assistants reach out to Roy on quite the number of occasions. Roy keeps turning down
Who's
the appearance
Mr.
on
Hockey?
Ice Ice Baby.
Who's Mr. Hockey?
Mr. Hockey's Thomas. He goes by Mr. Hockey.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
isn't an
Also the
actual
Iceman. No, it is. There's been
Off the
various
record
episodes.
Major penalty, 5 minutes, swooning comedy.
It's 3 people.
Trying to support.
Mr. Hockey, Matty Ice, and Baby Billy.
Really trying to support.
Matt Ryan?
Everyone on a show that's been done with you for 20 years was trying to figure out how to play with you there, and all you did was the invisible necktie of Greg Cody from yesterday.
What do you mean?
Gave us get out.
It's coming soon. It's coming
Get out.
soon.
Look who has to go now.
In Billy's
Oh,
defense,
he's tired.
Tony is very tired and should leave.
I couldn't help him. It was a bridge too far.
All of us were trying to understand what hockey language you were talking about. That segment is how you sound in my head for 20 years.
That open.
For 20 years, that whole segment is just you.
Does Ice
Yammering.
Ice Baby
You
have
just-
an open?
Just yammering.
The rare
If
off
Ice Ice Baby has an open, I'm in.
the rare off the record show.
What was the pick?
Notre Dame, I think.
He
Notre
didn't
Dame.
want to come into work today.
I think Notre Dame gets in if they lose that game.
Yes.
Why?
Yes, 100%.
Why? What's our what?
Well, he
They're
just
in.
said the whole thing is built so that Notre Dame gets in.
Of
He
course.
just he just
Two
said you have to
loss Notre-
start.
they lose to
you're- no,
USC,
you're,
that's
you're
a-
doing this wrong.
Yeah.
You're doing this wrong.
thank
you have
you,
to
Dan.
start from the premise of this is a made-for-TV event that Notre Dame must participate in, and then go from there.
Yes. They're a lock, Mike.
I think they're in trouble if they lose this one.
No, they're not. The
yeah, their
Cane?
strength of schedule's in the 70s.
It doesn't matter. The thing was built so Notre Dame gets in.
But if provided that they do what they need to do, I think a 2-loss Notre Dame, like you'd favor a 2-loss team that gets to a conference championship.
Mike,
over
you're
them.
making the argument based on merit. You need to stop that.
Okay.
Like, stop. Like, what are you doing? It's a
Right.
made-for-television
What'd you think
event
about
that
the
Notre
Clemson
Dame
thing?
plays in.
What'd you think about the Clemson thing? That was interesting. There's a chance that 3 ACC teams make this because
There is.
That would be wacky.
I think
There
what,
is, yeah.
what they're doing right now is essentially telling you, look, South Carolina has a pretty good argument too for the CFP. So that's essential. That might be a low-key playoff game
South
between
Carolina's
those two.
been good all year, correct? South Carolina. This is
Slow
what we
start.
Kind of got hosed on that LSU call. So like you apply context to their season. That's if Clemson does win that, they're in the CFP, are they not?
Are we not agreeing that all of this is a bit dumb? That so many losses are going to be involved that it's going to be impossible to pick 12, and we can take we'll find a
Yeah, but
find
can
a
we-
4-loss team. We'll find if I make it a 4-loss Alabama team, Stugotz will still want them in the playoffs.
Of course I will. I
guess-
mean, over an Indiana team, yes, I want Alabama.
I
Yep.
guess if we really look into this, yes, it's dumb. There's never been a way to decide a champion in this sport that hasn't felt kind of dumb. I think that this is the best of bad options, and this is certainly a year that you want as many teams in a single elimination tournament to help figure out who is the best team in the nation. I'd much rather have these dumb conversations about Clemson and Notre Dame because they're lower stakes. It's not like a team that's like when we had Baylor and TCU, 4 and 5 and 6 all into question, teams that could have legitimately made noise in the CFP out.
Right.
So I think this is the best of all the scenarios so far.
So are you saying, though, just so I'm clear, Notre Dame, if they lose this weekend or if they get a second loss here, that Mississippi, for example, is more deserving?
I'm not saying
Because
Mississippi.
they have 3 losses.
I'm not saying Mississippi, but certainly like Clemson, you look at whoever loses the ACC championship game. If they're level on losses and they make it to a conference championship game, why are you holding the conference championship game against them when Notre Dame doesn't play in one?
Stugotz, the thing that Mike is doing here that is interesting, and I think a lot of people in college football are doing it because God, football always wins, man. They've just turned it into college football March Madness now because everybody's kind of the same. And since you're going to allow 12 teams in, we're going to ignore that the Notre Dame loss is apocalyptic. Like they lost at home to a team in Northern Illinois that it makes no sense to lose at home to that team when in all your other games you're scoring 50 points. And Northern Illinois lost to Ball State, who Mike reminds you, when they played now Ball State's won a couple of games because it's weird, but when they played Miami, Ball State looked incompetent. Like, so when you start doing all the comparison shopping and you're like, yeah, Notre Dame hasn't played anybody, but Notre Dame has whacked everybody they have played.
They look good, no doubt. Like if you're picking teams on what they look like right now, yeah, absolutely. But if they lose to a USC team that hasn't had a good year, that is in all sorts of chaos, that benched their quarterback, they have the Texas A&M win.
There is no worse
They
loss.
got bad off of like military academies that were ranked when they played them.
Still a good win, though, Mike. I mean, if we're going to criticize their
there
bad loss, give them a good
holes
win.
you can poke holes in the argument, especially if they lose. Now, if they win, certainly put them in. They look as good as anybody right now, but if they lose that game, you hold up their resume compared to others, it's not that good.
What Mike is doing there by others is his University of Miami Hurricanes.
Right.
Well, Miami's resume is irrefutably better.
Right.
And like you want to say like that win against Connor Wegman when he's barfing on the field in Elko's first game at Texas A&M, I'm not taking anything away from that. I guess I did by adding the fact that Wegman, who's no longer the starter, was puking there. But we do this by arbitrary measurements, right? So top 20, Miami, you don't have a ranked win. You don't have a ranked win, Miami. Okay, I guess. All right, but if you look at others receiving votes, it's littered with teams that Miami has beaten. So if I say make a top 33, Miami's got 4 of those wins. Should Miami lose these games so they're ranked wins? It's all stupid. You have to kind of judge teams by how they've looked against competition that's tough. And if you want to say that the ACC is overrated, and yeah, not a good look that Rhett Lashley rolls in there with SMU and goes to a conference championship game, that doesn't take away from the fact that this is a conference that head-to-head against the Big Ten is better. Has a shot to be over 500 against the vaunted SEC.
Vaunted.
They're better than the Big 12 in head-to-head.
But I think what you're doing here with Notre Dame is you're protecting against if Notre Dame loses to USC, if the Canes lose to Syracuse, you think the Canes should get in, and I'm telling you Notre Dame is in.
I don't think the Canes should get in if they lose to Syracuse.
Really?
If they lose to Syracuse, they should be out. I think there's a discussion to be had if the Canes beat Syracuse, make it to the ACC championship game, and lose to SMU. The same case that I would make, in fact, I'd say it's a more dramatic case for SMU if their 2 losses are to BYU and to Miami. They should not be punished by losing their conference championship game. That's an extra game that makes everybody kind of money, right? Big money for everybody. You should not hold it against them.
Do you think, Dan, that if the Canes lose to Syracuse this weekend, that Mike will be singing the same tune
I was surprised to hear him say that, but I will simply say to Mike the same thing about Miami that I just said about Notre Dame. I think you need to rethink that you're ignoring that this is a made-for-TV event. And if there are margins that Miami and Notre Dame can climb through to get on the marquee among 12 teams, SMU is going to lose there. Like something that looks and sounds and feels like SMU is going to lose to what's the better television product. Like that's going to be the tiebreaker, and they're never going to have to say it. They're going to be able to hide it and drown it in numbers and strength of schedule and FPI, and at the end it's going to be we want to see Miami and Notre Dame because, hey, ESPN wants the big games. Like, what are we doing? We need to get the big games. Who was that big money guy? What was the sound that he made? What was that guy? What was that character? Big money guy. You said the big money. There's a big money television game.
Yeah, I don't understand. Well, the conference championship games are big money conference championship games, and the fact that Notre Dame doesn't play in one, it's convenient, and they don't have to play that extra game against a really challenging opponent. And by the way, in other conferences, that can hurt you. They say it's not supposed to hurt you. And I think by putting Clemson at number 12 right now, essentially telling you they're in a win-and-in scenario against South Carolina, how do you put Clemson into the CFP and not the loser of the ACC championship game? Now, that loser may very well be Clemson because Miami has to do what they need to do against Syracuse. But if there's a scenario in which Clemson's in the top 12, Miami and SMU play in the ACC championship game, you can't kick one of those 2 teams out and favor Clemson. Clemson didn't have the benefit of playing that extra game.
Rosie Perez next. She makes us happy every time we see her, every time we hear from her.
It's been a while.
She made that fiasco tolerable on Netflix as we were watching that poor old guy get beaten up by Jake Paul.
You always want to start off awkward, or
that's his thing.
Look, man,
welcome and thank you for coming back.
Rosie Perez is serially honest. I'm not telling, and she loves her boxing, and she knows far more about boxing than I know. She's
still weird.
It seems like you know her very well.
She is one of our all-time favorite guests on the show. She's an Oscar-nominated actress. She's got a new show with Billy Crystal and Judith Light. It is called Before on Apple TV, and we love her because she is one of boxing's most passionate fans, and she's known as the First Lady of Boxing. Is that a better introduction?
There you go.
Okay.
Yes.
Quite honestly, yes.
Okay.
Much better.
Yes, but she knows that we love her, and we enjoyed watching that spectacle with everybody else because the Netflix numbers came in, Rosie, and it was over 100 million people like that we're talking about on the downloads. I don't know what you thought that was going to be, but did it live up to your expectations? And we've missed you. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, that was a lot. But hi.
Hello. Yes, it was a lot.
Yes. Also, people don't download anything off Netflix.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's right. I got that wrong. Watched on Netflix. It was not downloaded. I think it gets, well, never mind.
No downloads.
Nope,
Dan.
it doesn't.
It's on DVDs.
You're like a dog with a bone on there.
Rosie, how did you feel about the entire experience? And thanks again for joining us.
Well, since it was my first time doing it, I would say it was unexpected, stressful, wonderful, exciting, mind-blowing, and also like, oh my God, what the hell did I just see?
What surprised you about the entire extravaganza? Because I don't know how much preparation it involves. I don't know, how much work you did with Roy Jones Jr. and your team beforehand. Why was it stressful?
It was stressful because initially I was supposed to be the host with Kate Abdu-Scott. And then they changed it and said, we think you would be better as color commentary. I went, oh, no. And they said, well, why don't we just test it out? So we did a test run. We watched a fight with the sound off. And we had to commentate Morrow, Roy Jr., and myself. And I ended up having so much fun with it. They just kind of talked me into it. And then when the reality hit, when we got to Arlington, I was like, oh my gosh, this is serious. And because I have such respect for commentaries, everyone down from Jim Lampley all the way down to Paulie Malignaggi and Tim Bradley and Andre Ward himself, I think the magnitude of the whole event started to really hit me once I walked into the stadium.
So were there nerves unlike other nerves that you've had? You've been a performer for a long time.
That's a good question. It was very similar to like when you go out on a Broadway stage, because this is real. There's no cut and you better come with the goods, So that was in my favor because I understand how to deal with stress in those situations. You kind of just do it. You know what I mean? And you don't let it get the best of you. When I first went in the stand-up, that's when you stand in front of the camera with the mics, handheld, standing up. For the first fight, I was obviously nervous. So it was really good that I did the prelim. I did Shushu Carrington's fight because I love him and I think he's great. And it was Andre Ward who had suggested to me to do that run first so that when the main card came around, I was kind of more settled in, and I was.
Rosie, you love boxing. We've had you on so many times over the years. You really love boxing, and I'm wondering, does it make you sad that Jake Paul is now the face of boxing?
It's complicated. My feelings in regards to Jake Paul, because I am so grateful for him for getting, Amanda Serrano paid. Really, that woman has been getting punched in the face, over 16 years and didn't get a big payday until he came around. That's really sad. And as well as Katie Taylor, she benefited off of his promotion of Amanda Serrano. So I highly respect him for that. But in regards to him as a boxer, he has gotten better. He's taken it seriously, but yeah. Yeah.
Your confidence, though, in the subject matter. It's interesting to hear you talk about nerves because the subject matter you've got it down, right? It is the performing aspect of just there are a lot of people listening to this, and where do the nerves come from there? Because I don't imagine that you can have much more confidence than you do in talking boxing.
Well, once I was seated at the on ringside, I was having fun, but it was the production aspect of it because The production was a little faulty. We couldn't hear the truck in the earlobe. So we were rushing to do the stand-up, then rushing back to sit down, and I didn't hear certain cues. And Roy and Mara were very supportive in that respect, as well as the floor manager. She was great, but it was a lot. So that part was like, oh my goodness, what's going on? But Roy Jr. Actually has said to me prior, said, when I first walked in the stadium, he looked at my face and he said, "You all right?" And I was like, "Nah." And he goes, "Yo, you need to calm down." And I started cracking up. And he said, "This is fun. They asked you for a reason. They didn't ask anybody else. They asked you." And he says, "So I got you." And Andre Ward came over and said, "Listen, if you ever feel nervous, just say, 'Hey, Roy, what do you think?' Because he's the best at it." And that's what I would do. I don't know if you noticed that. I would always say, "Hey, Roy, what do you think about that?" And he really helped me out.
When would you say was the last time you were this scared, or scared is probably overstated, but before performing, Rosie? What compares, like you mentioned Broadway, but what is the last time that felt like this? You're a very accomplished actress.
I would say my Broadway debut, because I had to be butt naked on stage. Yeah, that was yeah.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah. You know what's so funny about that performance? The director was so angry at me. He was so pissed off because I'm supposed to walk around the stage naked. And I'm thinking, my family's here, opening night. I can't do it. I just can't do it. I'm Puerto Rican, And so the scene is Joey Pants and I are in bed. We're doing the deed. And then after the deed, I'm supposed to get up naked and clean the room. Like, what woman in the real world does that? Not with a one night stand, you know what I'm saying? And so what I did was I picked up the pillow and I was holding it on my side so you could cover my tits and my, what, woohoo. And yeah, the director was so angry after the show. How dare you? How dare you? I said, listen, my family was in the audience. I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it.
I need an elaboration on what you being Puerto Rican has to do with us, it being a little extra hard to be naked in front of your family.
Because it's like, it's a very Catholic, religious, kind of upbringing, and,
No,
I listen, I didn't even drink a glass of wine in front of my father till I was 27 years old. I just wouldn't do it.
That explains it. Can you tell us, Rosie, how it is that you got this job? What's the backstory? Like, I know that for years everyone has associated you with boxing commentary. I know that you did it with our show for a long time. Do you remember, like, any interesting parts of the story of how all of this came to be?
They just asked me, and I was shocked. And I was like, "Me? Are you sure?" I mean, that's as simple as it was. Prior to this, I had co-hosted a fight for ESPN on Top Rank, and that was a lot of fun. And then Teddy Atlas asked me to sit next to him ringside, and he ended up screaming at me most of the fight. But yeah, and then one time Steve Farhood asked me to sit next to him ringside for a Broadway boxing Lou DiBella card. But that was it. So I was really surprised, but I was happy. And I initially thought that Mike Tyson was the one that told them to ask me. And I called Kiki, his wife, and she said, "No, we didn't know anything about it. That's fantastic."
You interviewed Mike, and were you expecting, you never know where one of those is going to go, were you expecting to be talking about God and the and the DMT, the toad, the smoking of toad experience?
Absolutely not. They had given me like a list, maybe 50 questions to ask him. I think I probably asked 2 on that list. I just started talking. As soon as he said, "Hey, buddy," I went, "Okay, here we go." It was just me and Mike. And we just started talking. And thank goodness they cut a lot of stuff out, because he was saying some out there, what. I was like, "Yo, what are you talking about?" So we just had fun, and it just kind of flowed. And knowing him since the, mid 80s, there was actually stuff that I learned from that interview, actually.
What got cut out?
I can't tell you. I wish I could, because it's so good and juicy. I was like, oh my goodness, it was crazy. It was crazy. So,
Rosie,
yeah.
this is a habit of yours. Aren't we still trying to find out who was her date to some award show 15 years ago? We never got a correct answer to that, right? Or it was actually longer than that ago. We never got a correct answer, didn't we?
She likes to leave us hanging.
Yeah,
You're
that's
right.
it's a big these big mysteries you leave out there. Like you gave us all the good stuff there, and then you denied us the good stuff.
Dan, I blame you because ever since it was the first time I said that story and it was on your show and everyone asks me about that now to this day. So every time someone asks me about it, in my head, I'm saying that effing freaking Dan Batard.
Yeah, that's how I started the interview too. That effing friggin' Dan Batard. Tell us about this show. I have not seen it yet, but it is on my list. I see you and Billy Crystal. I want to watch it. Apple TV Plus. The name of the show is Before. Tell us how it is you got involved in this project and what it is that is exciting about it to you.
Well, I always wanted to work with Billy Crystal, and then I got a call saying that he was going to offer me a role in his new TV show. When I read the role, I was like, "Oh, it's too similar to what I did in Your Honor with Bryan Cranston." So I got on a Zoom with him and the producers and everyone, and I said, I'm going to turn down this role, and I think it's the stupidest thing that I'm ever going to do. I said, but the role of Denise, whoever you get to play it, please make sure they do it like this. And we talked for like about an hour and a half. And 3 days later, they called back and said, you have to play Denise. And I was scared out of my wits about it. And I said, okay, because I just wanted to work with Billy. And plus the script was amazing. And also Judith Light, my gosh, And so that's how it came about.
Your Honor is so good, Rosie. Like it is really good. But I saw the delight in Chris Cody's face there because he loves how you say Billy. He loves
brings me back to White Man Can't Jump.
Yeah, yes. It had Billy had some accent on it, and so did Crystal. The way that you say Billy Crystal entirely had a lot of accent on it.
So you make the ends awkward too.
See you later, Rosie. Good talking to you. Thank you. It's always nice seeing you.
We're sorry, Rosie.
On this Thanksgiving, I am grateful for you guys. I know that Billy and Stugotz just had to leave. Everybody has worked very hard around here. We've got we're doing some winning. We're making movies. We've got books selling, best-selling books, and I am grateful. I am grateful for the work you guys have done around here over the last couple of years in building this company. So thank you, and I'm grateful to the audience for supporting that thing with big, loud noises every time we ask you for something. So let's throw them in the club this holiday weekend. We're all going to be asleep in the show me game of Thursday night when the turkey kicks in. Show me, Tua. Don't show me that. None of us want to see that. Just look, man, it's a success if he gets out of that without some sort of calamity. I know people aren't going to view it that way, but just don't get hurt again. That's how I'm watching him. Baby in a crib.
Cuervo Club, by the way, brought to you by our friends at Cuervo. Now's the good time to get the tequila that invented tequila.
First sound in the club.
This is the spot where Tua gets a concussion.
That was that whispering person near Billy that got in trouble with all of Tua's zealots.
This is the spot where Tua gets a concussion.
It
Not
sounds
Billy.
like Billy. It does. It's
just
suspicious,
like him,
though.
actually.
It does. Suspicious.
It's not just a good time to get the tequila. It's time to enjoy the tequila.
Oh, it's the best tequila.
That invented tequila.
I love Cuervo.
What's not to love? Who else is in the club? What was that?
It's Steve Healy coughing.
Steve Healy. You loved mentioning his name today.
Who's Steve Healy?
Steve Healy was a guest we had on yesterday because Stugotz didn't do any actual promotion for his book. So,
But you kept saying we did nothing yesterday.
We did nothing.
Little old Steve Healy over here.
We did nothing. We did nothing. Steve Healy was a guest. He was going to give us clues on how to get into the bestseller list, and he said, write a book about Trump.
No wonder there's so many of those.
That was his advice. Who else is in the club? Oh, yeah, that was a highlight.
There is nothing like a
was
thick.
That was good. I'm glad we wrestled that away from ESPN.
It's good.
I had a fight with Norby Williamson in a hallway over that sound. He wanted Joe Rose sound, and I'm like, no, I need that. That rat. Who else is in the club?
I think a bee just flew in my mouth. Excuse me.
That was Tony on the highest
Elevation,
point in
Dan,
South
no
Florida.
joke.
Yeah, where the bees get in the way of your top five.
A bee just flew in my mouth.
Excuse me. Can't be too sure.
Bird was flying overhead, which is why I had the bird on the mind, but then a bee went in while I was looking up.
Who else is in the club?
Glengarry Glenn LaBosse.
Knew there was an L in there.
Glengarry Glenn LaBosse.
Wait a minute.
Made him French.
Glengarry Glenn LaBosse.
Sounds like a blue liner for the Canadiens.
Glengarry Glenn LaBosse. Glengarry Glenn LaBosse. You know, I haven't heard anything from you, though, Chris.
Yeah, what about the poor reading that you did this week? Who else is in the club? No, I don't want any more Joe
It's
Rose.
the benefit of Man in the Wheels of Steel.
Stop battering me with Joe Rose. Stop. Just knock it off.
Did you lose a friendship with Wilbon? Did you lose a friendship?
Still not you.
Billy gets me in trouble with my friends. Like, for sure.
I think he's protecting you on Wilbon.
Who else is in the club?
Darrell Revis.
Yeah, talking's hard.
Revis.
Talking's hard.
Yeah,
Talking
Mallory.
on a show for like 3 hours live and not screwing up once. It's not easy.
I did do something this week, Roy. Here you go.
Game time. No, you sensually walking into the club. That is how he walks into the Cuervo Club, by the way. Like, that is exactly
Touching
how
my nipples.
Chris Cody. Game time. I want sensual Chris to do ad reads. Who else is in the club?
I always work out in a necktie and a button-down shirt.
He was so bad.
He wasn't wearing a necktie.
He was so bad. Chris, I was laughing last night, at your father because we told him to bring his A game, and he brought an invisible necktie and that mooing sound.
It's the most I've ever prepped him for a segment, and he was just a poop. That's what he was.
A little suspicious.
Yeah, there's Billy again. Something else he didn't say.
Who else is in the club? Did you run out of sounds?
I hate him. I hate the chicken.
You ran out of sounds,
Yeah, I did.
didn't you?
Still, no Chris.
I needed 4 minutes of material, and you gave me 3:20. No, stop battering me.
There is nothing like
a thick.
It's good.
Welcome to DraftKings Crowning Moments. It's a time that we like to put a big old spotlight on some winning NFL bets of the weekend. So let's jump right in. And let's start with Noah Gray. Noah Gray scored 2 touchdowns last week, and someone thought the odds would be in their favor for him to do it yet again. And guess what? He did. A $50 bet on Noah Gray to score 2 tutties paid out an amazing $3,050. That's turning a small bet into a huge reward. Let's talk about Baker Mayfield. You know how much I love Baker Mayfield. Somebody put $500 on Baker Mayfield to score an anytime touchdown at plus 475 odds. That's a cool $2,875 right there. That's a winning play. Let's add one more to the highlight reel. Jalen Waddle shut some people up over the weekend by hitting 100 receiving yards on the day. You could have caught that at plus 1,000 receiving odds. So if you put $500 on Jalen Waddle to do that, guess what? You're making $5,500. Crowning Moments is presented by DraftKings. Submit your winning bets for a chance to be featured. DraftKings, the crown is yours. What's up, everybody? It's Mike, and it's the holiday season. It's approaching anyways, and the holiday season means family gatherings. You're going to be hosting your family, opening up your doors to, let's face it, potentially some problems. There's always family disagreements and things up for debate. Well, let me tell you something that's not up for debate. The great taste of Miller Lite. In these polarizing times, it's good to have something that we can find general consensus on, and that is that beautiful white can, Miller Lite. Is awesome. It makes any time a Miller time, and it's got tastes that you know that you can depend on. A beer that is brewed for people who actually like the taste of beer. And let's not forget, simple ingredients and the fact that Miller Lite is only 96 calories, folks. That's right, and just 3.2 grams per 12 ounces. Making memories at year-end gatherings, I ask you? Well, make those memories taste like Miller time. Go to MillerLite.com/Dan and find delivery options near you. Or you can pick up some Miller Lite pretty much anywhere that they sell beer. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer.